The reason I wrote crushing was to tell you, don't believe the crushing that you're in as if it is your final residence or place of abode. You may have to live there for a little while, but borrow it.
Wow.
Don't buy it.
That's right.
Because you will rise again. Don't own that pain, don't own that suffering, don't own that agony. You will rise again. And when the angel came to Gideon, he found him in the winepress. The winepress is a strip club of grapes. It is the place where grapes disrobe and uncover themselves. For it is not the skin of the grape that is the most important thing. It's what's behind the skin that makes it important. We know that about grapes. I wish we would learn that about people. In the wine press, the grape strips itself and becomes vulnerable down to its soft parts so that it might become wine. Imagine what it must have been like to be an angel in heaven and suddenly hear God say that he's going to strip himself of his glory and his honor and his pre-existent glory and his omnipotence and his omnipresence and his omniscience, and that he would humble himself down to his soft parts and find a virgin and become a man. See, you think that the real crushing was the cross, but the crushing started when God became man.
That's right.
When God became man, he crushed himself from all of the benefits of being God. And for the first time in all of the ages and all of the eons and all of time itself, for the first time, God took a nap. As God, he neither sleeps nor slumbers. But as Jesus, he will sleep in the bow of the ship. As God, he's in all places and at all times. But as Jesus, he says, let us cross over to the other side. God never has to journey. He's already there. All of these benefits of being God, Jesus surrendered that he might be encapsulated, incarcerated in human flesh. God incarnate. The staggering, amazing reality that God would put himself in the jail of flesh. The very thing he hated, the very thing he despised, the very thing that Paul says is an enmity against God. Jesus wrapped himself up in it.
Wow. Come on.
And it was a crushing experience because it meant that he would have to be hungry.
That's right.
And so after he fasted, the Bible said Jesus hungered. But as God the Father, he'd never hungered. And now he knows what hunger is, and now he knows what tired is. And now he knows what betrayal is. So that whenever you get ready to pray, you can't bring up a feeling that he doesn't understand. He can be touched by the feeling of our infirmity, tempted in all points like as we are, yet without sin. He couldn't have done that before because he didn't know what it felt like to be human. When Adam fell into sin, God asked his first question, Adam, where art thou? That was the day the teacher went back to school. Because what Adam had fallen into, God had never fallen into. Adam had fallen into sin, and God had never sinned. So when he says, Adam, where art thou? It is not just merely a geographical location. He's trying to feel him. So Jesus comes to find Adam. In the sight of God, there are really only two men, the first man Adam and the last man Adam. And everybody else was born in one or the other. And if I was born in Adam, I was born in sin and shapen in iniquity. And I was born in Adam. And that's why Jesus told Nicodemus, ye must be born again. Because this time I'm being born in Christ.
That's right.
And I'm being born outside of the curse of the law and sin and death and free and liberated because in him I live, I move, and I have my being. And it was so important that he win me, that he was willing to allow himself to be stripped of the royal diadem and the hosts of heaven and the command of angels and the moving of mountains. And all of his godliness was incarcerated in humanness. He humbled himself. And in order to go through a crushing, you have to humble yourself. You have to give up on some of your power and some of your will and some of your influence and some of your opinions. And you have to shut up and humble yourself. And you have to be still and know that God is God. He humbled himself and became poor, that through his poverty we might be made rich. He humbled himself and became finite and died. Can you imagine the shock of heaven when Jesus gives up the ghost and dies? All of heaven stands aghast because they had never prepared a funeral for God. Maybe that's why he didn't buy Joseph's tomb. He only borrowed it because he knew he wasn't going to stay there. And the reason I wrote crushing was to tell you, don't believe the crushing that you're in as if it is your final residence or place of abode. You may have to live there for a little while, but borrow it. Don't buy it.
That's right.
Because you will rise again. You will. You will. You will. You will rise again. Don't own that pain. Don't own that suffering. Don't own that agony. Don't own that grave. Don't own that depression. Don't own that suicide. Don't own that loneliness. Rent it if you must, but don't own it. Because by Sunday morning, you'll be out of it.